Everybody, or we will be live.
Should I check
Go
my...
for it, Deborah.
Oh,
Oh, hello. Oh, yeah, we're live. I just checked. Hi, everyone. This is the first Althea community call of 2020. Yay! We're super excited to be here chatting with you all. And we're just going to get right into it we've got some exciting updates on the tech side of things and on the community side. And we also are going to be speaking with Zorie from Wisperluxe in Philadelphia, correct? And he'll be giving us all kinds of details about the Althea hoodie starting there. So let's get it started. Justin, you've got some updates for us?
Yeah, so the really cool development that I've been working on for the past, I don't know, I think it's about 2 months now, is the Althea for Android phone client. And I'm happy to say it is finally ready in the sense that it works. We're going to do our big promotional launch probably in a week or two after more people have tried it out. But it is done in the sense that the software is all available. If you take a look at my latest dev update, you can find all the details about how to set it up and how to use it. And if you go to the Play Store, you can find the app, which doesn't really look like much because it's a VPN app. It's just kind of got a deposit button and an interface. It doesn't really come out too well on the screen, and the emulator is sort of boring since it can't connect to a real router. But there were a lot of barriers in the development of this software. Android really doesn't like you doing mesh networking sort of applications because, well, generally it's afraid that everything's going to be used for advertising that somehow doesn't include Google. So Google is very protective of that sort of access. But with a lot of cleverness and I think 3 redesigns of the connection system, we managed to get it to connect to the router and dynamically pay the router for bandwidth. So what somebody does is that they just download this app, they open it, and they connect to the Althea mobile Wi-Fi hotspot, which all Althea routers will broadcast from here on out. You will be able to turn that off, although not yet. Like I said, not quite done. And then the phone will dynamically pay the Althea router for bandwidth. If you walk down the street and you connect to a different one, it'll switch to that one. If you walk away and then walk back into range, it'll launch the app from the background and let you keep right on going. So we're really excited to use this in our developing world networks, where a lot of the customers have really only smartphones. And home internet is definitely something that people want there. And with Althea's design efficiency and sort of the cost reductions made possible through decentralization, we can come in and provide home internet at the high end of the developing world market. And that helps us build the infrastructure to provide Wi-Fi access to the low end to everyone else through smartphones. So that's really a big advantage here because our hardware on the ground there acts as sort of a triple threat. It's both providing somebody internet service, it's providing other people internet service because it can act as a relay, and it's providing phones with nearby phones with service at a dramatically reduced cost. Mobile data in the developing world is between $15 a gig to $3 or $4 a gig in the cities. It is fairly expensive, especially for local incomes. Althea coming in at even 50 cents a gig, much less 5 to 7 or 25, is a really big improvement, and it's enough that people are very interested in using it. So I'm excited to get it out there and sort of spend a little bit of time iterating on it in that market, because I'm sure we'll find problems with the interface and uses that I haven't thought of yet. So I'm very excited to start seeing feedback for that.
Awesome. We do have a question from the chat, and everyone who's watching out there, feel free to pop your questions in the chat. We keep an eye on it, and so if you have a question for any of the team or Zorie, let us know. So Justin, John George Bauer Weiss, I hope I'm saying your last name right, is asking, I'm curious about IPv6 current status and timelines, as in when IPv6 will be available.
Okay, so that's sort of two questions. IPv6 through an Althea router is really just a matter of testing at this point. I have it as a pull request. It sort of needs to be integrated with the phone client because the phone client also made some changes to that code. Um, but once I get a week or two to sit down and really test it out, I should probably be able to roll it out. For some context to the larger community about what that means, is that IPv6 will allow us to give every Althea router a unique, globally accessible address that you could use, for example, to host a video game server or something else in your home. And that's not currently possible with our IPv4 setup. And that's obviously not the best thing in the world. Um, so that development is in progress. Um, Really, when it's done depends on how a lot of other things work out. So I'm afraid I can't give an exact timeline. I really wanted to get it out by the end of 2019, but you know how schedules go.
Yes, we do. Definitely. No. Awesome. So that's the only question we have right now for you, Justin. I'm sure we'll get more. I think, Deborah, you had a lot on the community front you wanted to update us on.
Yeah, happy to do that. Jehan, did you want to come in with a kind of a quick update, and then nope, okay. So yeah, lots of great things happening on the community front. Of course, more networks are getting started. We now have, of course, 3 live networks. We have the one in Oregon, which is now expanding with another gateway. One of the things I'm excited about adding in this another gateway to the marshland area in Klatskanai is that we're going to start to see the network add more redundant links and more resiliency as we grow and build. And immediately that's going to about double our network size. So very excited. And this is an area of this rural community where they have no other options. It's literally satellite or nothing. So I'm very, very excited to get those folks connected with, they're going to be seeing 50 megabits per second or greater. At a cost that's going to be right around, $40 a month for most folks. So very, very exciting stuff. And we've launched a few more Althea hoods, but one of the other great things that I'm excited about is if you want to get your hands on the Wi-Fi client and see that debuted, we'll be at ETH Denver with a new network getting started there called Tarantula Wireless. Will be a new Althea network. So we'll be showing off the new Denver network, the new Wi-Fi hotspot client, and we'll, of course, also be there to share all the great things that are happening in Abuja and throughout the U.S. as well. So very excited about that. And then I'm also excited about our network that Zorie's building in Philadelphia. Zorie, did you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what brought you to this project?
Hi, everyone. My name is Ari Barber. I got interested in mesh networking probably about 3 years ago, just in realizing that there was a lot of potential between mesh networks and blockchain technology. But not being any sort of dev myself, I was a little bit lost at sea. I came up with this concept called critter mesh, where I was thinking that I could somehow have mobile phones create an ad hoc mesh network for disaster areas in town. Probably ideas that we've all had. And then I quickly realized that not only were cell phones not the ideal sort of hardware for that, but also I really didn't know what I was doing. So I sort of did a search for the players in the space, and I've been keeping tabs on most of them for the last really 3 years. And then when I saw what you were doing with Republic, I reached out and I guess applied to start a pilot program, and I've just been extremely excited to see how far this project has come, and the potential of it. I think is, to be honest with you, I don't think I fully understand it yet. And just hearing about the Wi-Fi mobile hotspots, I didn't even realize that was in the works. So I mean, I'm blown away once again, and I'm really excited about the idea of the sort of, for lack of a better word, democratic consensus, private nature of the whole thing, and that I think it can really empower people to create and own and participate in their own networks. And that's I guess probably everyone on this call is enthused by those same things, but it's kind of rare actually walking around where people are mostly consuming not just products, but data and everything else. And very few people seem to be actually creating networks of all sorts. So there's a little bit there.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate you being here. And I'm also kind of excited to talk to you about your kind of outreach and your plans to build to multiple dwelling units or apartments. And kind of, I know that's a lot of our community has thought about doing that. Of course, it makes a lot of sense, right? You have some 40 or 50 subscribers in one spot.
Yeah.
That's pretty exciting. So I was wondering if you could kind of walk us through your plans there and, especially how you did the outreach. Like, how did you work with the property management team? What did that look like? And kind of what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, so this is very much a work in progress. And I had a friendly relationship with someone who is basically a maintenance man at a property. And I just mentioned to him, hey, what do you think about an alternative to Comcast in the building? And he said, oh my God, we've been gasping. I mean, we invited Verizon and they turned us down. Please, how soon can we talk more about this? So I knew I was onto something. This is probably about 125 unit MDU. But there's a lot to go through to actually get it up and going. There are individual condo owners, there's a condo board, and then there's also a management company. So everyone has to sign on to some degree. Management companies on board. We still have to go through the condo board. I feel pretty confident we're going to get some take up. I don't know what that number is. So, I'm budgeting it at 24, 48 and the full, 125. And I'm also working on, about 4 other buildings at the same time, in different phases. Another is a 40 unit and a 20 unit across the street from each other that have the same owner. And he thinks he provides free Wi-Fi, but he's not sure. I'm going to do a walkthrough of the building probably tomorrow. But he says that he's also invited Verizon to come do anything to get Comcast out of there because they're driving him crazy. And he doesn't know he has more problems with Comcast or Verizon. And then I'm also, I just met with the manager of a 60,000 square foot makerspace in Philadelphia that, I can't say the name, but they seem very interested. I think they run a ton of data. And there's also another co-work space. So I'm kind of working a lot of different angles here. I'm trying to sign up MDUs. And I'm also trying to sign up sort of community conscious spaces in the hopes that they might be interested in further sharing the network in their neighborhoods. I'm also trying to talk to as many architects, building managers, and real estate developers as I can to try and get in on new construction as well.
Makes sense.
So I'm a lot further along than I was, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks ago or 2 months when we started talking, but and I feel like I have a good handle on where we're going. Still a lot of work to do. And I think it's kind of different, and I can only imagine because I'm in an urban environment, but I think in rural environments, in a way, it's, how do I say it? Either you kind of have it, you have broadband, or you don't. And
right.
And here, everyone, I was going to say everyone kind of does, and I should qualify that and say I also think that there's 400,000 people in the city of Philadelphia that have no broadband and no internet access.
Wow.
So I spoke with someone in City Hall here, and they're excited about the potential as well. But what I was going to say is that a lot of the people here actually they have broadband. They're just kind of locked in with a single provider who obviously doesn't care. So it's a different. How do I say? There's different levels. of hoops and hurdles, and some of them are the building managers. Some of them are the individual, are the residents. So I'm sort of working through them bit by bit. So what else can I tell you?
Yeah, you talked a little bit about some of the challenges. Do you feel like the challenges are more from talking to the building management and that kind of thing, or is it more that you think people will have trouble with the take-up rate because you have competition, or what do you feel like the pain point is there?
I think the pain point is people can't believe it. I'm being really serious. I think I say to people, I said, do you have Comcast or do you have Verizon? Yes. Would you like an alternative that's twice as fast, 2 to 5 times as fast, half the price, and totally private? And they're like, yeah. So anyway, what are you doing this afternoon? And this is what I was trying to say, I guess, about another aspect of urban versus rural is, I think in some ways people they're so, for lack of a better term, it's almost Stockholm syndrome. They can't imagine that another provider could actually exist that could somewhat give them their agency back.
Yeah, exactly.
So and then of course this is that's probably 3 in 10 people. Another 3 just honestly don't care, and then 2 understand, and 1 is like, oh my God, how soon can we do this? So
I think this is often very common too. And once you get your kind of initial pilot or your initial MDU on board, I think we're really going to see that kind of explosive growth once people say, oh, okay, yeah, it is true. It is actually this great. So
yeah, I mean, I just want to be clear. I am 100% confident that this is going to do very well here. I can't say when because, of course, I'm not the Buddha. But I'm very confident. I don't think the obstacles are by any means insurmountable, and I think this is going to be one of those things where one day I have 2 people, and the next day I have 500.
Just
so,
some
yes.
comments from the chat.
Yeah.
B, who is hi B, who is our organizer in Tacoma, says they have a similar issue. No one believes it, and there's a bunch of competition. And Yax, who is hi Yax, hi to everyone in the chat, by the way. I'm not trying to single out anyone. Yax also says they'll believe it when they feel it, and
that's
the
good.
Organizer in Nigeria.
Yeah, and just what was I going to say? I just totally spaced out about B's comment. B, what was your comment? I'm sorry. I had something that I think was relevant.
They said that's the issue I have. No one believes it, and there's a bunch of competition.
Oh, the competition. Yeah. See, I don't think there might be competition, and I might be delusional, but I think the competition are the incumbents of Verizon and Comcast and maybe Frontier. But for example, in Philly, there's a small WISP. There's a WISP called Philly WISP, and they're the only people I've heard that are delivering service to people other than Comcast and Verizon. And everyone says that they hate that company already. So, and I'm not saying that there's no competition because the challenges are not liked. But the truth is, I think if you're not running the price-aware software, then you're not a competitor. You might be selling it a little bit cheaper and a little bit faster. But I think unless you're using the Althea technology, you're not a competitor. You're just a reskinned version of an old model, and your days are numbered. I mean, I would hate to be trying to build a new business on that model. I think it's nuts. So that's why. So I say I don't have competition. Someone else said to me, "Oh, I registered for a co-living community talk like 2 weeks ago, and I thought there were going to be 3 people there, so I showed up an hour late. There were like 100 people there, and although I registered to speak, they didn't put me on the board, and I managed to buttonhole the organizer, and I was like, "Excuse me, is it possible for me to speak today?" He's like, "Oh, you're just selling a product." I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? I said, "I'm an organizer, okay? So some places I'm an organizer, and some places I'm a founder, and some places I'm a CEO. It depends on who I'm talking to, right? So at the community group, I'm an organizer. He said, well, what do you do? I said, I'm providing a cooperative internet service provider that's democratic and, the spiel. He said, oh, I already have one of those. We have one of those already. I'm like, here. I said, no. This is new technology. There's 3 exist in the world, and none of them are in Philadelphia except for me. He says, oh, no, George does that over there. I said, okay, look, I'll talk to George, but can I have 3 minutes? He said, no problem. So I managed to talk my way up there. 90 seconds go by. I'm doing the spiel. I'm like, okay, you got suburban, urban, and rural. And I'm trying to break it down in 3 minutes. What our value proposition is. 90 seconds. I look over at the guy. I said, so it's been 90 seconds. What do you think? Oh, we're pretty flexible with our time here. So my point is, I'm not trying to make fun of anybody. People, there is an education process. There is a disbelief process, and I think that mercifully, those I think are going to be the most difficult things, other than finding backhaul. But yeah. I think that the entrenched thinking of 20 years of being stuck in this internet service provider jail that we've been, that's grown up around us is the hardest thing to break through. And in the city, I think if you're in rural and you already have some sort of understanding of what's the word I'm looking for, like cooperative responsibility, and taking care of looking after your neighbors, I think it's a little less difficult. Yeah. But again, that's maybe you guys out there in outside, maybe it's other difficulties. I don't know. It's just my point of view.
Yeah, I think you made a couple of really good points. One is that the competition has the legacy ISPs have some of the lowest net promoter scores, and those are the scores that they get for the customer service and overall happiness of their customers. And so internet service providers across the board, legacy ISPs, are not taking care of people. So I think that's kind of one point that that you were accurate about as well. And then I think you're right. I think that if we can meet people where they're at by giving them fast, inexpensive internet with great customer service, then and this is what I even saw this happen here, right? So at first it was just great fast internet, very traditional, like we'll come and set you up. And then it was really remarkable to start to see that ownership and the participation take hold as they realized they did have a choice. If it was too expensive, they could use less or they could sell to their neighbor. And having that kind of ability was remarkable. And watching that transformation happen is exciting. So I think that's what we will see is, we'll be meeting people where they're at, bringing them better customer service.
No competition to that sense of agency. No competition. And exactly. I think you give people a taste of that, it's like they get part of themselves back. Yeah. No, I mean, and that's true in all kinds of arenas, And
Zorie, what you're talking about is really being echoed in our chat by both B and Yaks, who have networks in Tacoma and Abuja, and they're B also said once we actually existed, we started getting more interest. Yaks said, B, you're right, 100%, but when they feel it, they flood in.
I love it.
And Yaks added, just this evening, a few guys in Lagos have decided to fund their pilot, and this is from them just listening in and following the story.
Fantastic. So, that's great.
It's really, it's exactly what you guys are saying. Once they feel it, they come running.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still very early in the process. My first one is not up and running yet, so I'm obviously still speculating. I have a lot of confidence. Actually, after being somewhat exposed to the team, being yourselves, and just seeing the chats, in tech support, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's very impressive, and I have a lot of confidence in seeing that the networks that are up and running. So I feel that I feel very lucky to be a part of this.
Yeah.
Well, likewise.
We're lucky to have you. There's a question from Rise of King Fresh for Zorie. What are the speeds you're getting upload downloads in Philly on Althea? Well, can we? I guess.
Not quite deployed yet.
We haven't launched it yet.
Yeah, no, so we haven't launched it yet. So, but what I'm seeing from the legacy provider is around 20 megabits max, 22 down, and I think up is 9 or something. So, I don't. It's a low bar to beat.
Yeah. That's one of the things when we were in Bee's network, or even, I mean, we have in Oregon here, we have fiber to the home for a lot of folks. And even with fiber, you can't always count that it's going to be broadband speed. So many of the people here are getting fiber internet to their home, 10 megabits per second, not even.
I just want to take you guys on a little walk here. I would have to interrupt. Excuse me for a second. I said we're getting 20 megabits, right? I'm going to show you how far away we are from Comcast.
Wow.
Okay, those are the two Comcast towers, okay? And then the back hall is just behind that white building.
Wow. And you're getting 20 megabits per second?
Yeah. Over coax. So, come on, guys.
Have you considered wrapping like tying flash drives to stones and throwing them? It would probably be faster.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Pigeons.
Carrier pigeons.
Yeah.
That's
so
great.
and it's really easy to bag on Comcast, and I don't want to get into that. But I just wanted to show you the buildings because they just built their new Four Seasons hotel on the top of the other one. So anyway, someday Althea will have the Four Seasons at the top of the Althea building.
So from the chat, John George says, I play RuneScape, so that's why I ask. B adds, in Tacoma, I'm seeing up to 350 megabytes per second using microtic antenna. Sorry for my reading. Yeah. But most people we serve see around 150. They were seeing between 10 to 40 megabytes per second before and paying the same or more than they are now.
So what does RuneScape need to run it, full frame?
They're trying to run a local server, I assume. So that means that they want a globally routable address, which is why he's asking about IPv6 support, which is something that, like I said, is mostly done and just depends on QA, because QA for updates is very, very, very strict. Because if you push an update to routers in the real world, it has to work 100%, no exceptions. And we've managed to do that for the past 15 releases. So we're on release 22 now, and there was one release where the release worked flawlessly, but it disabled updates. So good thing is that there weren't any problems, and we just had to go around and turn updates back on. But that's been the only failure in 22 releases.
I might have missed something there. I was just curious, what kind of speeds do you need to run RuneScape at a full frame or full?
The speed is less important than the latency for games, and Althea is really latency efficient. For example, I was in Infield, and I was Infield, North Carolina, and I was playing around on their cable network, and you had to go through 12 hops and 50 milliseconds before you got to a data center on that network. People in Deborah's network in Clatskanie get lower latency than I do on my fiber to the home in Raleigh.
Oh wow!
Not a little lower. I'm talking they get latency like 5 milliseconds. I'm in the 15 millisecond range.
This would be great if we had just a little paragraph blurb we could use for marketing materials, just about latency versus speed and how Althea users are experiencing much reduced latency. I think latency is really sexy ever since Flash Boys. Even though most of us don't need it. Nothing wrong with having a little extra octane in the gas, right?
Yeah. So it's really a big part of people's user experience. Latency is how fast the page starts loading. Because for reference, a Netflix stream is 5 megabits per second. If you have a 100 megabit per second connection, that's 20 Netflix streams. So what you really care about at that point is lower latency. And I worked really hard to reduce latency in the design. So it's a point of pride, but also something that's kind of hard to summarize because people talk about speeds. They're conditioned to talk about speeds rather than the whole user experience, which is what Althea really focuses on.
I just proved that.
Yeah. So to answer your question, Zorie, in the chat, John George said 60 kbps isn't enough, but 5 mbps is enough for RuneScape.
That's what Justin just said. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry, Justin.
That's okay. No, that's
only
okay. That's
I
cool.
am listening.
No, I said Netflix, but it's a good rule of thumb for just about anything. So
I'm sorry. He said Netflix. That's right. I'm gonna go on mute for a few minutes here.
No, okay.
Sorry. If you get me started on technical stuff, I never stop. It's dangerous.
No, we love it.
Long live calls.
Rise of King Fresh says, I spoke to my parents about Althea. They live in St. Martin. Their providers charge $90 for 15 MB download. So that's crazy. B is asking, Zorie, what issues are you seeing when trying to get into apartment buildings? I felt that was an amazing place to start.
Well, I'm like I said, I'm still at the very early stages of contact with not to say enemy, but the process. And so far, I haven't seen any real challenges other than, as I said, the disbelief. I think I say to people, half the price, 2 to 4 times the speed, totally private. They're like, yeah, well, tell me when your pilot project's up, buddy, because it doesn't sound realistic. Generally, people have seemed pretty open and interested, and I'm trying to talk to, like as I said, building owners and management companies. I'm also trying to talk to them about revenue share, which obviously everyone would like to put a little money in their pocket every month. So I think that's a helpful part of the conversation.
I think B, and B, correct me if I'm wrong, but what they may be asking is how, what's the best way to find these property managers?
Oh.
If you have an apartment, on your radar, it looks like it's going to be a great fit. How would you even, start that process of doing that introduction?
Well, I think that's a really, that's a great question. And to be honest with you, I have a background in cold calling that I'm not bragging about. It was a terrible experience. I've tried to go through existing relationships first of all. I think that's really key. But once you get past that, I mean, it's a sales thing like anything else. You have to find out who is the decision maker, and I think you have to find the best way to get them the material to make a decision. And that might be walking into the management office. That might be doing research on the internet. It also depends on your location, obviously. For example, in Philadelphia, I'm sure this is true everywhere, but there are organizations of management companies that meet once every month or so. So you want to get in, you want to present to them. Try and go as high upstream as possible. I mean, I don't know if that's helpful advice, but that's the secret sauce. I mean, if you go on Facebook, you can probably spend $600 or $700 a month paying people to tell you how to do that.
Yeah, I get the sense that also resonates well with me as well. I find that, the more calling, the more person that you talk to try to talk to someone else to try to get to that decision maker, the more effective you're going to be. It's almost a numbers game, right? Where you really just have to talk to a lot of people. And that's one thing I heard resonating when you were early on in the conversation. You were saying, well, I talked to this person and I talked to that person and I talked to this person. If you're really only talking to 2 people, you're probably not going to get where you need to go. You need to talk to like 10, 15, 20, 25 people maybe in order to get to that one decision maker where you could have that conversation that makes sense.
Yeah, I have to be honest with you. I just get chills right now. And what's one of the things that's so exciting to me about this project is that I like talking to people about this. Right. I'm proud to say, look, like for the first time in my life, maybe I'm going to have a chance to make a difference. Yeah. And it's not even just about providing internet service. It's about giving people empowerment and agency back in what is quickly becoming a very core part of their life. I mean, being connected isn't a choice anymore. Yeah. So I think if I said to Deborah the other day, people talk about product market fit, but product salesperson or product or product marketer fit is extremely important too, because people get sold probably 20,000 products every 3 hours. So if you how do I say it? If the hair on the back of your neck rises, that's what people want, and it's you can't fake it. It has to be authentic. And I think if you're genuinely interested in this and you want to share it, you'll find the right people. you just have to keep, you're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days, just keep getting up, walk through your process.
Yep.
And I think it's important for all of us, as we move forward, to develop materials and real marketing materials that are tried and true. Like, for example, like a paragraph about latency, what I think would be very interesting, and that we can share, and that will help us sort of spread the word here. I don't know if I answered your question, but I could talk for another hour.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, no, that was great. B did have a follow-up to a little bit more details and nitty-gritty, and I think you guys can probably talk about this offline as well.
Sure.
But say I have a property that I found the owner and the address, but no phone number. How do you get the info for them? And
So knock on the door.
Yeah, and another question from Dead and
Let me just interrupt you, okay?
Yeah.
So I'll answer that question in another way. So I have a cafe I go to, semi-regularly. I sit there. I do 90 minutes of work in the morning, have a coffee. See this one guy there every day. He's probably 75 or 80. He shows up in his convertible 911. And, one day he starts talking to me, hey, what do you do? Because I'm the only guy there that's not talking to him. And turns out he owns, 500 units around town. And he's interested in art. And I was working on some art thing. And I said to him the other day, hey, who's your internet provider? He says, oh, I give my tenants free internet. I'm like, no, you don't, dude. He's like, well, I think I do. So I said, listen, I'm going to go check out your building and see what your telecom infrastructure is to see if I can wire you up. He said, oh, no problem. He said, here's the address. The door code is, 1345. So
Nice.
I said, can I go on the roof? He's like, I'm not sure. I think there's a ladder.
Love it.
So, but that's also, I think, this is probably going to be some of the most exciting times for this group here, because that's the best, is talking to people, and if we're super successful, it's going to look very different in 2 or 3 years, and you're going to have a sales team of 15 guys, this is the exciting time.
Yeah, exactly.
And another more nitty-gritty sales question from Dead in Denver. How do you convert users who may be in a contract with their current provider? So that might be one for Deborah, or her network and all of that.
That's tough.
I'll tell you one thing. I was in the elevator the other day and I said to somebody, so your Comcast user? He said, yeah. I said, I want to replace your Comcast with my Wisperluxe. He said, that's going to be tough because my wife works for Comcast. 2 days later, I ran into him again. And guess what? He's going to come over.
Nice. We've noticed that too. Like when somebody comes to install backhaul, or we see the trucks around. I know in my network, all the installers for the other incumbent ISP are already very excited about Althea here. So I everybody knows that legacy ISPs are the way of the past. As far as people under a contract, right, though, we now typically internet service providers often spend between $100 to $500 on marketing costs to acquire a new user to their system, which is quite high. Now, and normally we don't, we spend next to nothing, right? It's all grassroots, very, person to person, neighbor to neighbor sales. So it may make sense to, in certain circumstances, to look at negotiating or buying out that contract, or whatever that might look, where they run them in tandem. That is definitely something that other ISPs sometimes will do, is offer to buy people out of a contract. Obviously that could be quite expensive.
The other thing I think is it depends on if you're talking about an individual resident or a building. Is the building under contract? Because some of the buildings are under contract as well.
Yeah, and I think that it looks a little bit different in an MDU2. Typically what we'll see is that kind of, it's what do they call it, a marketing benefit or something, somewhat of a kickback, because I don't believe they can't exclusively lock down the internet in an apartment, but they can receive compensation for promoting whatever ISP's in there. So you will sometimes see up to 3% can be a pretty common kickback for, let's say Comcast or something, to offer a building owner. So that can be something that you're up against too. Have you noticed that at all, Zorie, when you've been talking to people, that the building owners are making money?
You know, I've been trying to suss that out. I haven't heard any hard feedback yet. But the building owners I've talked to have primarily been Comcast, and they all cannot wait for an alternative. And actually, now that I think I should say this also, this is just another tidbit of information. In my office, it's a condo, and it turns out that and I share it, but it turns out that they had been paying for FiOS fiber service for 7 years before they discovered that the building wasn't that fiber wasn't installed.
Wow.
So and then, you know, when they tried to push back, you know, Verizon basically said, well, you know, your contract says it doesn't matter. Wow. So that's you know, that really makes it easy.
Yeah, the other kind of thing that makes it easy is that, you know, for a building or a property manager is that we know that retention rates or, you know, getting new tenants in is directly tied to their broadband access. So if they're not offering, they're not going to be able to compete in modern, you know, age if they can't offer their tenants fast speeds.
Yeah. You know, I just sat in on a smart buildings call last week also, and they talked about how important, you know, sorry, the dogs are a little crazy, but they're talking about how important having broadband service throughout MDUs, how important that is to the property managers and the owners, because users really, especially the younger users, really expect to walk out of their apartment, down to their car, and have like full speed the whole time. So it's a big deal. It's for retention. I mean, it's actively part of the chatter in building management now.
Yep.
Nice. That's nice. So yeah, that's awesome. I think we've covered a lot in this call. So it's been awesome. And it's been awesome, Zorie, to hear from you and get all of this advice, especially around sales and getting out there and talking to people. It's super great and exciting. I think we've been doing a little problem solving in the chat as well around trying to reach property owners to bring. Yeah.
And B, just reach out. You know, I'm happy to have let's do a call and just chat and probably it's all stuff you know, but sometimes it's helpful just to bounce it off of somebody else and unlock, you know, what's going on with you and me, vice versa.
Yes, and B says yes. So, and for everybody else out there watching, our organizers that are watching, yeah, feel free, join our Discord. If you're not a part of our Discord, the invite is in the description, and you can just ask questions there for Zorie or Deborah or Justin or Jehan, and really just we'll do our best to answer your questions and get advice and brainstorm with each other. So that's the great thing about this project too, is that we just can really learn from each other. And I think there's no other questions. Are there any other questions or anything else to say, Justin, Deborah, Jehan? Zorie, yes?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you all again for this opportunity. It's really amazing. And Jehan, I wanted to thank you for helping me out earlier with some of the web stuff. And it's great to put a face with a tag. And Justin too, I could listen to you talk tech, you know, for hours. It's very exciting. But I really just
doing a podcast.
We need to talk. We need to talk about your podcasting future.
I have to walk the dog.
Yes.
Okay.
It is that time for us to go take care of our animals. Myself, I have to go feed my cats. And yeah, that's all for our chat. We'll just say goodbye, and we'll be here next month in February. So,
be in Denver.
Bye.